I think you can do it right in.
Oh, in YouTube. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have it in front of you, you won't use it.
Yeah.
We got a gentleman's head in our skin.
Which guy?
That guy in.
No, I can move the shot a little more.
Do you have any problems? Sorry, yourself.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, I don't need any.
I will allow it. This is good. It's a little bit less like.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Can you listen? You're going to listen? Give me a sound check.
You want to let your mic on?
No, just that,
Thanks. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes.
That's enough.
What?
That's enough. Oh, wait, because it takes time. It's 30 seconds.
And then tell me that that was perfect in the room.
yeah.
Sound good? Right volume, everything's right? We're good?
But I think once everybody shuts down.
Okay, I shouldn't turn it up a tiny bit. Main mix. I'm going to up it a little bit. Oh, you're here in the room.
We built this for which now access
Should we mute mic 5 or?
That might do perfectly well if you want to shut it down.
Oh, we're okay now.
Now, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I had that on by accident. Not for long, just for a little.
Yeah. Right. So the idea is that, you know, it leverages some of the data that's not
Say what?
So if you have a device like Farms, you don't need to do it on your
I turned my computer, I turned my Mac, I turned it off, so.
Tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
We're just taking some of the back roomness out.
What's that all about?
What? Oh, I don't know.
Excuse me. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, and the like, special
Oh, you got the seat on wireless.
I'm very official today.
Always.
I got my phone connected and then my iPad.
Okay.
That's what that was
That
about.
technical problem out of the way, I think we can get started. Welcome to NetTuesday, everyone. We have a crowded room here, an exciting, busy evening. We'll try and knock out. My name is Seth Horowitz. I'm one of the organizers for Building Net Squared. And I'll go through very quickly just some introductory remarks. I'm going to go out of order a little bit because we've noticed that we seem to be having a capacity issue with regard to the wireless in the room. So the wireless is the Friends Guest wireless network is available without a password. But if you have a device that you're using, like a phone, that doesn't need to be on the wireless, if you can turn that off, it will help us with capacity overall. So let me go through this quickly. Friends, the Net Squared is a organization which has a bunch of different affiliates around the world. There are a couple dozen around the world, pretty well spread out. We're all sponsored by or affiliated with the TechSoup Global service that is in San Francisco that provides technical support to nonprofits. And most of them have, most of the different affiliates have some variation of a theme. The way in which we express our theme is technology for social good, and particularly focusing on the social good that is achieved by activists, nonprofits, and social entrepreneurs. And very recently, we kind of reorganized the way in which we handle these events. We do these events every month on the first Tuesday of every month, with occasional exceptions of the date. And the way it's working now is that we seek out people who are interested in a particular topic or a particular aspect that falls into this broad range of technology for social good, and support them in creating an event that will highlight that and provide information and good networking for everyone who might be involved. That's what we did tonight. So Lamar has been thinking about this topic for a long time and pulled together this impressive panel and a great crowd, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Looking back, these are some of the topics we've had in the past year. I'm going to go through them right now. Looking forward, the one that we have scheduled is March 3rd, which will be about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And is Joe in the room, or is he still out there?
He's still out there.
Okay, well, Joe would tell you more about it if you were here, but he won't. But March 3rd, we'll talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. In April, we're thinking about combining our efforts with Philly Tech Week, which happens a little later in the month. And then from May and beyond, really, we're organizing those. We have some ideas and some things in the works, but we encourage you to think about what you might want to see and if you might want to get involved in a particular topic. If you do, feel free to see myself or Andrew or Brianna, who are back there. If you have a topic that you would like to see, whether you want to be involved in it or just want to suggest it, we'd like to hear about it. In addition to these events, we're about networking. So there's a sign-in sheet out there. Please sign in. Leave a business card if you can. Fill in a tag, which are these, which has your name, as well as tagging yourself with something else. In this case, your favorite number, because it's about data. And that's really meant as an icebreaker, as a way to feel comfortable talking to someone and asking them a question and doing some networking. And we have a very strict no questions too stupid policy. So feel free to challenge that. A little bit of housekeeping is that we have a lot of food here. We don't want to take it home, so please eat it all. I forgot to tell them to go light on the onions, so there's an awful lot of onions there. Just eat it all up. You are in a platinum LEED certified building, so we do a lot of composting here. All of the food, including the meats and cheeses, all of the tableware, the cups, the plates are all compostable, so please place them in the green bin for compost. The bathrooms are outside right beyond the elevators. We encourage you to use Friends Guest Network if you want to. There's no password for it, and as I said before, if you don't need to use the wireless, if you can disconnect from that, it will help with capacity issues. We are video streaming and recording this event, and we're doing it. We're actually doing two different simultaneous things here. One is that our friends from Lighthouse Technology Associates are doing a Google Hangout. So this is being broadcast live through Google Hangout right now, and the recording will be available afterwards. In addition, podcast Steve Leveckin over there, the guy behind the big cameras, is producing a recording that will be more professionally edited afterwards and available as well for your entertainment review. If you are uncomfortable being on camera, we designated that corner as a video-free zone, and we'll do our best to get things out to make sure that that doesn't go on camera. To the best of our ability. If you parked across the street, across 15th Street in the parking lot, get your ticket validated at the front desk there, and you'll get a slight discount. It's not a great discount, but it's not getting a discount. And for those who are interested, feel free to come out for a drink or a bite afterwards and continue the conversation from there. The sponsor is the American Friends Service Committee, which is one of the tenants of this building. The AFSC does peace and social justice work around the world with offices in this country and in various other continents. And we're pleased they're able to sponsor this event. And that's really essentially all I have to say. What I'd like to do is very quickly go around, have people introduce themselves. Just say who you are and say a remark about why you're here if you like, but it's got to be very quick. I'd like to encourage people to use microphones. And you have to speak into the microphone to be heard. And although I don't think this is so important during the introductions, we'll be using the microphones during the questions and answers. Please make sure to use the microphone. And during Q&A, please stand up as well, and that'll make it easier for the camera to actually focus on you. So my name is Seth Horwitz. As I said, I work here at the American Friends Service Committee. I work in the area of knowledge management and information architecture, primarily with the intranet, helping the activists and other program people and folks working in this building use their information more effectively.
I'm the guy in the front row. Dennis Harvey, independent designer, developer.
My name is Dan Bradley. I work for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Pennsylvania. I'm a data analyst.
My name is Anna Murphy, also with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm a grant writer.
My name is Kate Ranchini. I'm actually just here to listen to the to talk here.
Hi, my name is Eric Young, and I'm a community journalist and community activist and work with young people primarily. And our topic for this year is the question of health and making the community and the world a healthy place to be.
Mike Thomas. I'm involved in a couple different startups, but I'm here because I'm using we just launched a data-driven and design-driven project to get young people to vote for a group called Young in Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Pyle. I'm a lawyer with Philadelphia Legal Assistance and a data person.
I'm Tom Bednar. I'm a staff attorney with the Legal Clinic for the Disabled and also, I guess, a data person.
Hi, I'm Leslie Gaines. I have worked with data management and database programming in numerous nonprofits. Most recently, I was a research associate in the Arts and Culture program of the William Penn Foundation, and I'm interested in working with data.
Hi, I'm David Saul. I'm an IT consultant with Omicron Development.
I'm Shimon Walpole. I'm a physician with working with a group, Citizens for Health, trying to make Philadelphia the healthiest place.
I'm Jake Riley. I'm a student at Penn, and I'm interested in data now.
Hi, my name is Anthony Harrison. I'm a data analyst at Philadelphia VIP, which is a nonprofit organization that provides pro bono legal services to people that can't afford it for civil suits in Philadelphia.
Hi, my name is Katrice Cheaton, and I'm a research fellow at Philadelphia Beautiful.
I'm James Stark. I'm a software engineer, and I'm interested in civic hacking and open data.
Hi, my name is Lamar Kendrick, and I'm tonight's panel moderator, and I will make a few more comments later on about myself.
I'm David Mosenkis. I'm a data scientist. I work for Genentech, and I'm a data activist.
Without interruption, we have awarded Tyler the the privilege of being able to make a special announcement that's really relevant to this topic tonight. So introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler. I'm a data analyst with Azavia, a geospatial software company here in town. I think it was especially relevant because we have this program called Summer Maps where we give students a paid fellowship where they get paid with paired with a mentor at Azavia, and they learn spatial analysis, but then they also get to do pro bono work for a nonprofit. So we have we're going to have 3 fellows doing 6 projects. So if you're a nonprofit and you have data that you would like to have analyzed spatially on a map, check out one of the pamphlets that we have at the front, or I left some by the food tubes and everybody would go. Or go to summermaps.com. And I'd like to encourage you to think about an application soon because they actually close this Sunday. I've heard some rumblings that we might have an extension on the deadline for applications. And if you're a student interested in learning about data analysis or learning how to use GIS for nonprofits, you should go to Summer Maps 2 and apply. And yeah, that's it. Summermaps.com.
Hi, Doug Barg. I'm the founder and president of Kitchen Cred. We work with youth throughout the Philadelphia area. We teach them life skills. We do that by getting them in the kitchen and teaching them about cooking and nutrition and food safety and food economics. And Saturday we're going to be cooking with Bigs and Littles from Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Pete Bratz. I'm a web developer and came just very interested in the topic.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew Sather. I'm the IT director for Jenkins Law Library, Philly's public law library. And I'm the closest to a data guy that they've got. And always happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Frank Chen. I'm a co-founder of a project. I have a small group of people. We use publicly available genomic data for research healthcare.
Hi, I'm Brianna Morgan. I'm with the Office of HIV Planning under the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. I also go to Code for Philly and am a general data enthusiast. I spend a lot of time with the Census Bureau's American Community Survey, some stuff from the Open Data Philly data sets and policy map, and pretty much like at least 3/5 of the things up there.
Hi, I'm Bob Lemming with Lighthouse Technology Associates.
Hello, I'm Diana, also with Lighthouse Technology Associates.
Paolo Fasada, integrated transport planning. I use data in designing enterprise systems for shared value, enterprise development.
I am Dave Walk. I'm an engineer with a health startup called Grand Roundtable, and I'm just looking for new opportunities in data.
My name is Walter Sekla. I'm a consultant with a company called North Highland. I'm here because of the interesting organizations that are represented on the panel. I definitely have either an interest or a former professional connection or used their data in the past, so that's a great panel.
Hi, Rich Collier. For today, I'm a scientist and communications person for a company that supports federal agencies like the Centers for Disease Control, the National Institutes for Health, and also in my spare time help volunteer fire company doing data analysis for determining standard of cover and also advanced financial systems.
Hi, I'm Marcy Bermusi. I'm with People's Light, which is the second largest professional theater in the Philly region. We're in Malvern, actually. I'm the director of community investment, and I'm learning how to use data in ways that can be transparent and beneficial to the organization and to see what opportunities are out there for us.
Hi, my name is Emma Tramble, and I work for a national organization called State Voices, and we bring data-driven strategies to nonprofits and grassroots organizations We're doing issue advocacy and electoral work, and I'm the Pennsylvania Data and Targeting Manager.
Hi, I'm Tracy Ragsdale Mabry. I'm a business analyst interested in data analysis.
Hi, I'm Jackie Schroger. I'm the program director of Weaver's Way Community Programs.
Anybody who came in late want to introduce themselves? Okay, we'll hand it over to Lamar at this point. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll hand it over to Lamar at this point. Okay. Good enough.
Hi, my name is Doris Thomas. I'm a member of Philly Cam. Philly Cam is a television broadcasting station, and we create digital web media. We create films, as well as blogging, video log.
Kamar, there's another one.
Thank you. I'm Matthew Clark. I'm here with Unlock Philly. I'm a filmmaker and advocate and stuff like that myself. But specifically, what I enjoy about that is I've done a lot of activism with disability rights, about accessibility, and it's, it's showing like how the problem is systemic rather than just kind of like one instance at a time. It can really help change the conversation. And so yeah, I enjoy it an awful lot. It's a very effective way to get activism and progress made.
Thank you. One thing I do want to say is that we're being very informal, and because we have a lot of food and stuff like that, please feel free to get up and go get food or drink during the presentation. We're not going to have a formal break as we go along. And I think we're ready to hand it off.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name again is Lamar Kendrick, and I'm a regular attendee here at NetTuesday. I'm going to keep my remarks as brief as possible so that we'll have time to enable the panelists to say what they have to say and to enable you all to have some Q&A. But I do feel a need to frame this meeting as well as how these particular individuals arrived here. I think this is a very impressive panel. As the gentleman said, he has some connections with these individuals, and I have a connection with most of them or their organizations, and have for a long time, and feel very fortunate that I was able to assemble each of them. Again, I've been coming to this for a few years, and the reason I began coming was because I didn't have a sense that the local tech community was embracing issues having to do with social change and social enterprise. I learned about this organization and started coming, met Zeph and the rest of the team, and have been coming ever since. And we had a meeting in August, and we all decided that we would chip in and take some of the responsibility off of Zeph's shoulders, because he's done just a yeoman's job here, an excellent job at programming these meetups. And I volunteered to take on big data. Now, why big data? It just seemed to me to be a big issue, and one that I had not seen covered. That is covered with respect to social enterprises and social change. So I said, well, let me give it a shot. I am not a data professional, so bear with me if I stumble over terms and phrases. I've learned a lot over the past couple months about data analysis, and who's doing what in order to advance issues having to do with social sector organizations, and using data in ways that can improve the quality of life in our communities. So those of you who have come expecting to hear about big data, we changed when you're in midstream. I wasn't sure until probably a month and a half ago how I was actually going to approach it, and it became clear to me that big data was not the real issue, that using data in ways that enable social sector organizations to accomplish their missions was the issue. And I've had the good fortune of having met some of these individuals along the way, or having had their names referred to me. And the first one I think I met was Phil. Phil was giving a presentation. I said, I gotta have this guy. So I walked up to him, told him what I was trying to do, and he said, I'm on board. The next was Emmy. I was at a meeting of the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. Bunch of techies talking, you know, at 1,000 feet. Noemi made the comment that, hey, you know, we need to be able to translate this information for people who need to use it, but who aren't technicians. Again, I said, I gotta have this one. Went up to her, told her what I was trying to do. She said, I'm on board. Aaron. Now, Aaron's a hard guy to get in touch with. And he doesn't know this, but there's a person named Yuri. What's Yuri's last name? But it doesn't matter. Just know this. Yuri is our Eastern muscle. So I saw Yuri at a tech gathering a couple weeks ago, and I said, Yuri, I'm trying to get in touch with you. Yuri said, oh, is there a problem? I'll contact you. You know, well, interestingly, the next morning I sent a follow-up email to you. And I still don't know to this day whether it was because of the email or Yuri. Oh, good. He's never heard of Yuri. Good. In any case, thanks for coming here. We appreciate it. And Katie Nelson. Now, Brianna, who you heard from earlier, and one of our advisory members here at NetTuesday, made a recommendation. A gentleman named Tom Love, who was with TRF Policy Map. And I called Tom. He was in his car on his way to Pittsburgh in a rainstorm, and he answered his phone. And he was excited at what we were trying to accomplish here. And he said, you know what, as soon as I can get to a rest stop, I'll call you back, which is what he did. And we had a nice, 20-minute conversation, and he made reference to a few of his colleagues, including Katie. I called Katie, and she was ecstatic at the opportunity to get involved, and I'm really appreciative of her being here. And of course, Keith Wardler with the Federal Reserve Bank. Years ago, I used to be a banker, and believe it or not, and I'm not going to tell you how many years, there are at least two of his colleagues who are still there, Keith Rowland and Marty Smith. Keith Rowland is a community development specialist, and Marty Smith is an economist and researcher. And I just met Keith, but if he's hanging out with those two guys, then he's as sharp as they come. And they have a really good team down there at the Federal Reserve Bank in community development, which I used to work with closely. I was doing community development finance at the time. We were financing affordable housing and small business and other kinds of facilities that the bank generally didn't want to touch. So for a lot of years, I've been working at the intersection of social enterprise, development finance, and technology. And what this means is they come along and they have a really good team down here at the Federal Reserve Bank and think about issues at that intersection. And this is one of those issues. So, data and impact. The crux of this gathering is really about helping social change agents, social sector organizations, individuals who want to improve the quality of life in our community to find data, analyze data, and then harness and use it to affect some kind of change. I mean, this is not a meetup where we're going to go into the science and the techniques of data per se. It's really about using data to make good decisions or to influence some kind of policy that's going to improve the quality of life. And I'm hoping that the audience, that is you all, and these panelists here will help us flush that out and get at how we can do it. There are a couple of organizations, actually three, that I want to make reference to. One is called Some for All. Another is datakind.org. So that's someforall.org. Someall.org, thank you. datakind.org, and data analyst with social good. Why those? I wanted to mention them at the outset because they are providing specialists to social sector organizations to help them find data, analyze data, and use it. Because it dawned on me earlier that I said, wait a minute, people might be sitting through this wondering, okay, well, I've heard these panels, but how do we go about doing this in organizations? And these are 3 organizations that can provide some assistance. So I encourage you to go to their websites, find out what they're about, and if necessary, reach out. So why don't we get started? I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the backgrounds of these panelists. They'll do that. What I'd like to do, though, is start with Aaron Ogle, who is the manager at the city's Civic Technology Office. And Aaron is working to improve the websites and the user experience of the websites at various city departments. So Aaron, why don't you get us started? And by the way, we're going to allow for 1 or 2 questions at the end of each presentation. I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not an arm twister, but if you get a long-winded question, I'm going to cut you off because we really need to keep it moving. And I want to make sure that our last panelist, Katie Nelson, has plenty of time to make it. We should be finished by 8 o'clock. And by the way, and we'll do Q&A at 8.
Great. So hi, my name is Aaron Ogle. I'm really pleased to be here. When I was talking about assembling this panel, I couldn't think like Transformers or something. So, I guess just a little bit about me. I feel like when I see a panel discussion, like, who are these people? Why are they here? What are you talking about? So a little bit about me. When I first moved to Philadelphia from Seattle several years ago now, I came and worked as I'm a geek. I'm a software developer. I really enjoy it. When I first came to Philadelphia, I joined Zeta. You should definitely do some so I worked for them for several years, learning about GIS, data, those sorts of things. And the reason I really like that, the reason I kind of came to this job is, even though I really like technology, I always see technology as a tool. Technology is a way of getting to, it's the means of getting to the end. And I've always seen as being not necessarily like making people money, just kind of working with a corporation and doing technology that way, but really trying to focus on impact in the real world. And GIS was really interesting because it was kind of the literal combination of technology. So I really appreciate that. After that, I moved to a nonprofit organization. I was a fellow at Code for America. Just there was using technology to help make government more effective, more efficient through those means. After that, I was a software developer in the at Open Plans, where we built open source software for cities, focusing on urban plan, community engagement, things like that. But now I work for you. I'm the director of civic technology in the city of Philadelphia. And a lot of people ask me, what does it actually mean? It sounds like a cool title, but the way I think of it is I try to make technology work actually means. How do we take the tools that we have, apply it to real world problems through where I have to be now, which is the city government. So when I came on board at the city just 4 months ago, the I guess the overarching goal was how could we make technology work for people, and the opportunity was phila.gov. The city said, we want to redesign all of the ground. Can we work on that? So, so that this is what I've been kind of dedicating my life to for the last 4 months, and I want to talk a little bit about the process that we're going through and how we're making use of the data that we have available to us to really make this process go well. So I don't know if you've seen phila.gov in a while. Do people use it? Who uses phila.gov? Really, like just a couple of people. What do you use it for?
I use it for the like real estate stuff.
Okay. Right, so real estate taxes.
For the pay bills.
Anybody else?
So lawyers, we often use it.
Yeah.
Office of property assessment.
Yeah. So Illinois property assessment. Community cleanup resources. Anybody else? Okay. So what's going on there? Anybody else? Public health stuff. One more. RFPs. So how many of you who talked really like interesting.
It's just a question for.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, phila.gov, like most government websites, is organized like an org chart. To get something done, you really have to understand what department takes care of which services, and you have to be able to navigate that in order to phila.gov, like many other government websites, is kind of like a brochure. The city wants to tell you about what it's doing. Because they want you to know what's going on. And when government websites are typically redesigned, what happens is you design everything. It gets designed completely up front. It happens behind closed doors. There's very little feedback from residents or departments. And all of the work gets done. And then all of a sudden, there's this grand reveal, there's fireworks, and a brand new website appears. And oftentimes, it's not as good as it should be. And interestingly, now that more people are browsing the web on mobile phones than they are on desktops, and even with this experience, 30% of all traffic is from mobile devices. I consider this to be pretty disrespectful of people and their time. So what we are trying to do is a new approach. If this is the way things are typically done, well, what is different? And I want to kind of go through some of those principles. And the first one is to really just start with domains. What do people come to phila.gov to do? What are they trying to get done? Because I am in an interesting position of redesigning a website for people who don't actually want to go there. They have to go there. They don't have a choice, because in many respects the government is a monopoly on these services. The only game in town that if you want to pay your water bill online has to come to phila.gov. But what we are setting out to do is really understand what people want to do and how can we make those experiences respectful, simple, easy, crisp, even delightful, as much as paying your water bill can be delightful. And as we look at our analytics, I spent the first month just kind of pouring through our web analytics, trying to understand how are people using this right now. And like, if I had to summarize a couple of bullet points, these are the main ideas. This way, they want information about the property. Are they need to get a permit of some kind, pay their water bill, do something fun in the park system. Something went wrong, and I need to tell somebody. I have loved them in prison, and I didn't support them. I also have a lot of assumptions about how this works. Everybody does. And what we're trying to build into our process is to constantly test those assumptions against our data, against either the analytics themselves, or we at how often we are wrong. So we're also building iteratively. I mentioned a lot of times all of this work kind of the design happens up front. All of the work happens in this grand reveal, but instead of doing that, we are building, we're doing our software development in about 2-week iterations. So every 2 weeks we stop. We obviously have a very long timeline and goals that we're trying to hit. Every 2 weeks we stop, we look at the details, we kind of see where we are, learn in the last iteration. We decide, is this as high a priority now as we thought it was when we first put it on? And that allows us to really course correct in small ways rather than like one trajectory change early on, just kind of spinning us off into oblivion, for lack of a better term. Keep it simple. So in terms of both the experience, the design, but also the amount of code that we're doing. Less code is more, and if you're a software developer, less is more. We try to reuse as much software as possible. We're writing as little custom code as we need to, because every single line that we write is a line that we have to maintain, and we are trying to make things simpler as we go forward. And then finally, we want to be open about what we do, even when we make a mistake. That's why I'm here, that's why I'm talking about this. And that's also why the work that we're doing is online right now and has been for the last month or so. This is our alpha. When we talk about alpha, this is verifying and testing our assumptions. So what we have looks a bit like this. It's different. Hopefully good. And what we want to do is just kind of show you, public, show everybody who's interested in this, kind of where we are, what we're thinking, the direction we're heading, and provide you with the opportunity to give us feedback. Basically, you'll see there's a big provide feedback button at the top. And if I were to kind of scroll through this, you would see basically on every page, there's something wrong with this page, not finding what you're looking for, please tell us what's going on, we would love to hear it. We really want to take a new approach as to how we go about this. And we're designing mobile first, so if you go to that right now, you see this. And, it will actually work. And this is the starting point. Like, we're not putting this out there thinking like, this is the grand reveal. Like, no, this is actually the very beginning of the whole race, and we know it needs a lot of work. The content in particular is just all test content. So we are beginning conversations with our departments just the past week or two. We've been really trying to corral liaisons from every single department in the city. We're sitting down trying to understand them and their needs as well, because if it's not working with departments and then having a process to easily maintain all of their content, then it's not going to lead to the best product for us as well. So we're collecting public feedback. Philo.gov is up, it's running in parallel, and at some point, so Alpha will continue to grow and evolve. At some point, we'll flip the switch, and Alpha will become Philo.gov. Like I said, we're meeting departments right now. We're starting to put our content strategy together, and we're hiring our content team. So if you know of a really good senior content strategist, apparently, and try to figure out how we institutionalize everything. So we're doing a lot of new things, things that in a way that governments doesn't work. We're trying to institutionalize that so that it lasts longer than me, lasts longer than my colleagues, so that this kind of work can continue beyond me. So that's kind of the gist of what we've been working on. I know there's not a lot of data there. I'm sorry about that.
Well, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. Listen, I have a question for you. If someone wanted assistance in using the various data that's available here in the city, is there a person or a department contact for that assistance and guidance?
Yes, so we have a small team. So team is the chief data officer, Stacy Mosley.
But are they able to call them directly? I mean, they're busy people and they're hard to contact.
So Open Data Affiliate is probably the best resource currently that you without actually contacting you. Sorry. Oh, that's true.
Can you speak up? What was that?
Sorry, there's Open Data Affiliate Google Group.
And Tim and the team.
So did everyone hear that?
Can you just repeat those for, if we don't have time to get a mic to somebody?
Sure, absolutely. So there's an Open Data Google group. You can Google the Open Data Google group and participate that way. So Tim and our team are available.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks a lot. Does anyone have a burning question that they absolutely have to ask? Because if not, we'll wait until the end. It's got to be quick.
Finding out the department, like I said, if I want to find out about a license, how do I get, is there something on Philly.com that would cut through the red tape? In other words, I want to get a license to a vendor. What department do I need to go to? How is that question answered?
And so the dream is you don't have to know which department to go to. You just go to phila.gov and be able to navigate through our information architecture. So the way we organize content to the answer to your question. So we're trying to really be smart about how we put our content together so that we're directly answering these questions. So they can just kind of get in, do what they need, and get out.
Okay, great. Thanks for that question. That helped illuminate the matter. I was going to show a video, but I'm going to skip it because in the interest of time, we need to move this along. But has anyone in the room heard of Hans Rosling? You can see a show of hands? Okay, then you know that it's a treat to watch his videos, and I wanted to share with you what's possible. And if we have time at the end of our gathering here, we'll show a 4-minute clip. But if not, go on YouTube, and that's Hans, H-A-N-S, Rosling, R-O-S-L-I-N-G. So what we're going to do is move along. We're allowing about 10 plus minutes for each presentation, so I'm going to ask the panelists to try to keep it there. If they need to go beyond 10, they can do that, but let's try to keep it at about 10. So our next panelist is Noemi Mendez.
Hi, everyone. So it's Noemi, like not having an Emmy, but Naomi, but not Melody. I don't do Melody. So I'm with the U.S. Census Bureau. We're headquartered in Suitland, Maryland, but there's a Philadelphia regional office actually right on 9th and Chestnut, so we're here, we're local. What do we do? Basically, most of what my office does is managing the census data collection activities that we're doing. We have a 9-state region, so there's about 50 of us in the office. We have about 1,100 field staff. So we manage them, we manage the data, we make sure that it gets collected correctly, so it gets sent to our servers for cleanup and dissemination. What I do is totally not related to that. My background is in geography and GIS, okay? But what I do, my title is a data dissemination specialist, which is government speak for, I'm sort of like a lifesaver when you call my office and you're at wit's end because you can't find data, fact finder's not working, which I know a lot about, or you have a question you can't answer, you call our office and I'm on the other line. So I'm like a librarian. So I do a little bit of everything. I do public relations for the office, but that's basically what I do. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the federal sort of open government data initiative that's been going on. So when President Obama came into office, one of the first things he did was he issued a memorandum on transparency and open government, which was issued in January of 2009. So what does it do? It tries to make the federal government more transparent, okay? With participating in publishing government information online, improving the quality of government information, creating and institutionalizing a culture of open government, and enabling a policy framework for open government. So we're tied in with that. If you're interested, you can go to the White House page and type in open government. The memo's there, all the background info's there. So we're working as an agency. Census is under the Department of Commerce. So Commerce itself has been very active in this open government initiative. So basically, these are all sort of the open government websites that are under this umbrella of this memo. But the one that I'm more interested in, a lot of people might be interested in, is data.gov. And what data.gov tries to do is to be a repository of all different types of available government data. So there's about 88 to 89 different agencies that are involved. You can look up by agency and see how many data sets there are per agency if you're looking for something in particular. This is trying to be the one-stop shop for all of this, and it's constantly sort of evolving. So there's federal, state, local governments, and even some academic institutions that are involved in this. There's all sorts of neat things. There's APIs. There's a GitHub that's associated with it. It has a really intense search tool. But basically, I thought, I like this quote from the site is, it's liberating government data to improve American lives. I thought the liberating part was pretty fascinating. Okay, so here's just a screenshot. I just did a search for GIS, and there's like over 44,000 different data sets. So it's crazy. But you can do like a really quick search and see what's on there. It's really neat. I'm in there for hours just finding, to see what's available. So I just wanted to let people know that this was a resource that's out there. So basically, I'm going to kind of bring this back down to the census. How many of you have never used census data, ever? That's what I thought. I'm going to convert you tonight. So, like I said, part of what I do is I educate people on census data, and I always say basically everybody can pretty much use census data. So here's just some of the people or different groups that I've worked with personally. Businesses, I work a lot with small businesses when they're putting together their marketing plans and they're looking to see like if they're going to place a business somewhere, they're looking for what the optimal environment is, whether they're looking at income or who lives there or what their competition is. So I do that. I work a lot with grant writers. You guys are like the #1 fans of census data. I do a lot with grant writers. Researchers is another big one. I work a lot with the media, especially a lot of the local media in Philadelphia. I always get excited. NBC 10 is a big user of census data. I always just happen to watch them, and they'll have some screenshot of like the American Community Survey or someone we do a journey to work stuff. I'm always snapping photos and sending them to people and say, look what I did today. Policymakers, local, state, and federal governments are big users of our data, and obviously students and teachers. So this is just kind of the top one. So I will say I work a lot. My sort of philosophy in using census data is kind of using this, I don't want to say monster, but this huge factory. I mean, we probably do 100 different surveys a year, okay? So we do different topics, and taking that data and making it usable for the local user, and that's huge. I mean, because you'll go in there and you're not sure what you're looking for. how do you find it? How do you access it? So I kind of see myself as that person that's a tour guide that sort of takes you through the maze of census and also other government data sets and shows the public, especially people who don't have the big budgets. Like the people who have the budgets, they're not in this room, right? It's everybody else. You guys can use census data. So this is our website. If you haven't been to it before, it's census.gov. So we recently gave it a facelift in January. So if you haven't been on it a while, it looks a little bit different. But these are some of people are looking for quick data. I show them quick facts. The pop clock, which is like our #1 hit. Apparently, it gets like millions of hits a year. We have this kind of like screen stuff that goes through the top that talks about, what are some of the things that we're doing, and then our latest news. So if you're interested in anything the census is doing lately, you'll want to read our news. So basically, the main data dissemination tool that we have is called American Fact Finder. How many of you guys have used American Fact Finder? All right. How many of you guys like American Fact Finder? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not the easiest thing to use. It is pretty cumbersome and there's a learning curve. But I always tell people once you start using it, you'll become like feels like my backup. It gets easier to use. So basically, I'll show you a little bit of that before I move on. So this is my contact info. So if you get anything from this, is that there's a Census Bureau office locally. That's my direct line, and that's my email address. So you can call me with any census-related question. If I don't know it, you can ask Emma. I will find you a subject matter expert. If I have to reach into the phone and pull somebody from Washington to get you the answer that you need. So, and then that's my Twitter handle. I'm a data geek, right? So I'm always tweeting and retweeting anything, especially census-related or open data related. So if you wanted to follow me, that's our stuff. That's my personal Twitter, and then that's our census.gov. Yeah, I'm a big vet nigger. So just quickly, So real quick, so if you kind of want to just become familiar with Fact Finder, it's under data, tools, and apps. If you can't get it from there, just click on there. So all of our data dissemination tools and apps are sort of on this page, but it's not alphabetized. I don't know why. So Fact Finder is our biggest one. So this is basically how you use it. So let's say you're working on a grant or a news story, or you just kind of want to find out what's going on in a particular neighborhood. Just a caveat, census doesn't delineate data by neighborhood geography, so you have to become familiar with census tracts and block groups and blocks, which I can talk to you about offline. But we do have data available by zip code. So we'll just do a zip. So in case you haven't seen this before, I'll do a little quick tour. So basically, let's say this is the zip code my office is in, you'll have the 2010 data. 2010 census decennial data is what we do every 10 years on April 1st, the official count of the population. Then we have this American Community Survey, which we do every year, where you can get yearly snapshots of what's going on in a local community. And then we have some other data sets. Just real quick, I'll show you the ACS data. And this is a really big endeavor. This is our bread and potatoes, so to speak, when we're not doing the decennial census. We're collecting data every month. About 3.5 million households are randomly selected a year to participate in ACS. So this is the data that we're getting out of this. So for instance, this has sex and age breakdown, median age, has your race data for that zip code. It has your Hispanic or Latino and race and total housing units. So that's just like a really quick snapshot. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of tables that are available from many different tabulations. And this isn't even looking at some of the data from the economic census that we collect that business users use a lot. When they're looking to open a business, finding out what their NAICS code, seeing what the competition is, that also feeds into the GDP. I mean, we have foreign trade data. We do health surveys for other agencies. So we're just basically a data warehouse, right? So my job is to, help you find what it is that you need. So I think that's all I have business analyst that we have done professionally. Yeah. So depending on the user who I'm talking to, like this afternoon, I was speaking to an older gentleman who was interested in, I think he was a former doctor, and he was looking for data to open up a free clinic in the Germantown area. So he called me, and he's like, I'm looking for uninsured data. Do you have that data? I'm like, yes, we have that data. And he wanted to know how to use it. So I sat with him, he was in front of a computer, and I explained to him how to maneuver FactFinder, how to get the data, his questions on how the uninsured data was collected. So I talked a little about the American Community Survey. He asked about the American Care Act, or how was that data sort of included in that, and how that would affect it. And told him how to download data. If he needed help with downloading data, I could help with that. How to get it into. I try not to handhold people unless they really need it. If they're a really basic user, I can go into Excel. If there's someone who's into GIS, I can show them how to extract shape files from here, or how to go to our census.gov. The geography part has all our GIS sort of information. So it's really a case-by-case basis. Most people are kind of, once you show them how to do it a couple times, they kind of like run with it. And then I'll hear from them every once in a while, but that's generally how I work with the data.
Thanks, Naomi. I have a question. Yeah. Who is your counterpart at the state or in the city? Do you have one?
With the state, every state has,
in a nutshell.
Yeah, has a state data center. So in Pennsylvania, we have a Pennsylvania State Data Center, and they're out of Penn State Harrisburg. They're sort of the liaison between the Pennsylvania government and ourselves. And then, if you're looking for a specific county counterpart for planning, I can get you that information. I try to, we have a pretty extensive network of people that we can put you in contact with if there's something in particular.
And in the city, is there a person you would interact with regularly?
I am the city person.
So that's a job decision. We need to contact your boss is Aaron, and tell him we need Noemi at the city.
No, ain't Noemi, not Noemi.
Thank you. So if Noemi is at one end of the data spectrum, that is the collection end, then Phil is at the other end, that is the user end. And one of the things that's I think that's fascinating about this field is how this emerging, it seems to be emerging. For you data professionals in the room, you can correct me on this, but the notion of storytelling, data visualization and storytelling in order to make one's point and influence policy, for instance. Well, that's Phil. Phil captures the data and enables us to visualize it. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to have the clip of Hans Rosling shown, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do that because he's a clear example of how we can visualize the data and use it to tell stories, to make our points. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, you're kind of almost like a team. All the data that she and her census team are putting up there, I pull down and turn into maps. So I use that American Fact Finder all the time. So my name is Phil Domenico. I'm a JS analyst currently at Phil Abundance. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. From Wilmington, Delaware, and as far back as I can remember, I've always been fascinated by maps. So much so, I proudly describe myself as a map nerd. I had this hobby that I would actually draw maps by hand, and example some of my work. So I was fortunate enough to be able to work for AAA for a significant amount of time. If any of you have ever ordered a trip ticket from AAA, there's a strong chance that I did a for you. I was highlighting roadmaps for your trips, and I did that for over a decade, almost 11 years, until they decided they didn't need us anymore. So I decided to go back to school. I learned I went back to school as a geography major, learning GIS, Geographic Information Systems. So I went down to Rowan, down in Glassboro, got my bachelor's degree in geography, and then I went up to Connecticut for my master's degree. I got that a few years ago, and now I am back in the Philadelphia area. And now I'm working as a GIS analyst at Phil Abundance, which I'm actually there as part of the AmeriCorps Vista program. I don't know how many of you know what AmeriCorps Vista is. Basically, I give a year of service to an organization that's dedicated to alleviating poverty. And I actually served one full complete year there, and I actually decided that I would like to continue what I was doing, so I signed up for a second year, and I just passed that midway point of my second year as an AmeriCorps Vista Phil Abundance. So a little bit about us. We are the Phil Abundance is the largest hunger relief agency in the greater Philadelphia region. Our service territory covers 9 counties, 5 in Pennsylvania, 4 in Jersey. We have a network of over 400 agencies, food pantries, soup kitchens, etc., and we provide food to over 75,000 people every week. And little milestone that we just celebrated. We were founded in 1984, so we just celebrated our 30th anniversary. We had a big party last year. So my job, GIS analyst. So I like to say that my job is to illustrate the true face of hunger in the region. And how do I do that? I do that with maps. So most of my work is with census data, the data that me and her team put up there. The bulk of my work is American Community Survey, 5-year estimate data, usually at the census tract level. I spend a lot of time I was originally in the government relations department. My boss was the government relations liaison. He would go out and speak to legislators, congressmen, state representatives, state senators, city council. I'll go a little bit more into that in a moment. I use the data to basically find out where the areas that are most in need of hunger relief are in the region. And to do that, I use combinations of open data, census data, and also some of our own internal data, where our members are coming from. And now our next thing that we would like to do is explore some web mapping possibilities. So I'll go into each of those just briefly. So most of the data that I work with is American Community Survey, poverty, SNAP, income, unemployment, and I use the American Community Survey 5-year estimates, which updated annually. So as of December 5th of last year, I have been very, very busy. This picture. Picture one. Uh-oh. You? Oh, this looks like very. Okay. It's on here. Oh, there we go. All right, so combined with the American Community Survey and the Tiger Shape files, which is also census data files, I joined those together to create my GIS database. So I basically built a database pretty much from scratch, from the ground up, using exclusively the census data. Besides census tracts, state, county tracts, I have everything in a nice little database, so I can. It really helps to make maps on demand for whichever department comes to me and decides to need something. So here's an example of a map that I use using census data. This shows SNAP rates, the food stamps, supplemental nutrition assistance program in Pennsylvania by census tract across the state. So you can see that there's heaviest usage in parts of Philly, parts of Pittsburgh, but also out in the rural areas are also very high SNAP usage. And this map is actually featured in WHYY Newsworks article. I put a little link to that there. They were interested also to see that that SNAP usage is not just a city problem; it's also out in the rural communities as well. Like I said earlier, my boss is the government relations liaison. So he would go out, talk to legislators to make sure that they know that food policy is a priority. Make sure to keep funding programs like SNAP. So when he would go out and speak to these legislators, he would take with him a map of their districts. I made a series of maps showing poverty rates in their districts, also with locations of our agencies, which I used our internal data for. Plot them onto a map together. So we would take out a map of their legislative districts. Very, very, very oddly shaped district. That's a 7th Judicial District. I believe that is Patrick Meehan's district. All right, so the big thing is we're always looking to find out where the areas are most in need. Besides the American Community Survey, also we use data from the Department of Agriculture. We are really interested in knowing about food deserts, combined with extreme poverty areas. Chester and Camden in our service territories are especially bad. I'll show you a map in a moment. These maps will help the departments guide their decisions to focus their areas to mitigate hunger. Back in September of 2013, we hit a milestone. We opened the nation's first nonprofit grocery store down in Chester. It's called Fair and Square. It's been a very, very successful endeavor so far. So here's a map that I made using a combination of all of these sources: USDA data, Census Data. So showing the food deserts, and then I also highlighted its tracks that have poverty rates of above 40% or median income below 25,000, so you can see where the areas most in need are. This is another map that was featured in an article, Technically Philly, right after Fair and Square opened. It was a really big deal for us. It's been a big project. It was in the works for a long time, and we're very, very proud of it. So combining open data, internal data, I help them guide their decisions to target areas. One example is we have a food helpline for people to call in to say, I need food, where can I find some? And we have a dedicated staff to help find the nearest source of food. So I was asked to map out locations where the calls are coming from. And then I took that, they wanted to know where the calls are coming from and also where they think that the calls will be coming from in the future. So what I did was I geocoded, I mapped out the locations of the calls whenever it was possible to do that. And I weighted it through census tracts by poverty rates, and I came up with this visualization showing that these are the areas that we found to be most in need based on locations of the calls and the poverty rates. And see, it's pretty heavy around North Philly, West Philly, and kind of leaves a kind of a donut hole around Center City. I thought this was a pretty interesting visualization, but it shows basically where they want to target their efforts. So far it's been a lot of static mapping, maps to print out. They're nice maps, but we're trying to look into possibilities of doing something that's more interactive, that would engage the public more. Right now it's still in the talking about phase. We're trying to decide what we want to show, what forms of open data, poverty, SNAP usage is really big with hunger relief. Internal data, probably not. We're still thinking about that phase and how best to present it. Do we want to do a series of individual maps, or do we want to put everything into one and let people toggle back and forth? which platform probably be best to use it. We have an ArcGIS online account, but I personally have had more success with CarterDB, and I'll show you an example of that here. This is a map that I made using a platform called CarterDB, and this is income rates at the tract level. That opens up. There we go. So for this particular map, this was my first successful attempt at using CarterDB. I took from the census, I took median household income rates at the census tract level, and then I also took the income at the county level, and I divided it into the county level median income to come up with a ratio. Let's pop it up. To show area, to pull out areas of relative wealth and poverty, because an income level in Philadelphia is not necessarily the same as the same income level out in Chester County. So I thought this was a pretty good visualization. Really popped out the extremely poor territories in North Philly, West Philly, and Camden, but it also popped. It also highlighted areas of like extreme wealth that follows right along the main line. So this was sort of like a prototype example for me, but this is something along the lines of what we're thinking about trying to move forward in the future. And that's what I've got.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. We are going to move along in the interest of time and try to stay on track here. There's one question I have for you, Phil, that is, to what extent, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like you to answer, to what extent did your work result or help move along the market in Chester? Was that in the works prior to you joining?
That was actually in the works prior to my joining Phil Abundance, but showing that map that I showed you sort of proves why, reinforced why we chose to locate where we were, and also looking at possibilities of future locations.
Okay, great. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. Keith?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Is this on? Can you hear me? My name is Keith Morgan. I'm the Community Development Research Manager at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. I'm not sure if this is the first time that someone has read a disclaimer at a NetTuesday event, but I do have to mention that the views I'm about to present are mine and do not necessarily represent the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia or the Federal Reserve System. But thank you very much for having me here. I work within the Community Development Studies and Education Department. And we feel very strongly that awareness of and access to and instruction on how to use good data are all pivotal to successful community development. And over the last couple of years, I think we've made some pretty good strides in connecting people with data. I'm going to talk about that in the bulk of my presentation. Before I do, though, I think I'd like to talk for just a few minutes about my department, just to provide some context for my remarks, and so you're not wondering why somebody from the Fed is here talking about community development. So there are 12 reserve banks across the Federal Reserve System, and each of them has a community development or community affairs department. And we're all interested in issues impacting low and moderate income communities. We have our roots in the 1977 Community Reinvestment Act. If you're not familiar with that, it requires banks to meet the credit needs of their entire service areas. And so what we do is we conduct research and outreach to help banks better understand the needs of communities and then help to better meet those needs. So our official mission is to support the Fed's economic growth objectives by promoting community development in low and moderate income communities and fair and impartial access to credit in underserved markets. Also to make sure that everyone can participate in and benefit from the financial system. As I said, there are 12 reserve banks. Each one has a geographic footprint, an area of responsibility. Ours is the smallest. Covers eastern and central Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and Delaware. And through our community engagement, we try to inform, connect, and learn. So we inform by conducting high-quality research, by analyzing and sharing data that I'm getting ready to do. We connect by having events and meetings and webinars to share that work, and then we learn from the community as well, because a lot of what we know about trends, emerging trends in low-income neighborhoods and populations are from our stakeholders. We learn a lot from them, and we can develop a responsive research agenda based on what we learn. Most of our work focuses on either on the revitalization of older industrial communities, affordable housing research, fair and impartial access to credit and financial services, or economic inclusion. And the data that I'm getting ready to run through, you'll find tend to focus on these 4 areas. So we often get calls from our stakeholders, and when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about nonprofits and lenders and public and government agencies. We'll get calls from our stakeholders asking for data. So they might want to know the poverty rate in Camden, or they might want to know the median household income in their neighborhood, or the unemployment and renting. And oftentimes those calls are motivated by grant applications. We've heard a few people talk about that. Sometimes, though, it's to help develop an appropriate intervention or public policy or program. Sometimes it's to help measure impact. Whatever the motivation, we found that there is a data gap. We wouldn't get these phone calls if people had this information at their fingertips. And so we developed a community development data dashboard to try to help fill that gap. Now, you probably know the Fed has to be neutral in our dealings with the public. So we don't advocate for policy. We don't take information and necessarily try to do something with it. We try to inform debate. So we take data, we try to create good information from it, and let our stakeholders use it as they see fit, hopefully to make good policy. So I'm just going to go through the dashboard. I know we're limited time, so I'm just going to briefly discuss some of our resources. If you go to philadelphiafed.org, you can scroll over community development and then click on the dashboard, second option. This is the landing page is what we call our community profiles. The entry point into this information is the map. So each of the maps, each of the metropolitan areas in our district is shown in dark green. If you click on the label, below the map, you get a couple of options. You click on Community at a Glance, and this uses the American Community Survey that Wellbeing discussed. But instead of hundreds or thousands of tables, we pulled the information that we think our stakeholders are going to find most useful, related to demographics, social and economic characteristics, and housing. Provide the most recent data, although this is 2012, we're going to be updating it in the summer to 2013. Compare it to 5 years prior, and compare it to the state, so you can look for changes. Going back to the profiles, we also list as many community organizations as we know of that are active in the area. Each one is hyperlinked with an indication as to the type of services they provide. At the bottom, most of the ones on this one. At the bottom, we list funding sources, sources that provide funding for community activities. Oftentimes they're at state level, but there are some local options as well. I'm going to go through a couple of tabs and skip around, but with a purpose. So the next tab I'm going to talk about is the consumer credit data. Through this tab, you can find our analysis of data from Equifax. You may have heard of Equifax, one of the 3 largest consumer credit bureaus in the U.S. So this information is not publicly available. We purchased the data from Equifax. It's anonymous. The 1 in 20 random sample of everyone in the U.S. with a credit history and a social security number. We don't know. We know virtually nothing about the borrower, but we know where the borrower lives and we know information on their debt and credit. What we can do with that is we produce slides for the 3rd district, that district map that I showed you that include parts of the states, and for the U.S. Click on this. It's just a PDF of some PowerPoint slides. And we start with a summary slide, so this provides some highlights of the slides to come. You can see this slide shows the median total debt for borrowers in that data set. It's important to us that we disaggregate data by income in some way, because we're focused on low and moderate income communities. We don't know the income of the borrowers in this data set, but we know the income of the census tracts that they live in. So we can talk about debt levels in low, moderate, middle, and upper income neighborhoods and compare that to the whole. Just run through a couple of those slides. It shows the percent of consumers with debt. This shows the median debt levels for mortgages, credit cards, autos, and student loans, as well as some delinquency rates. Some delinquency rates on, again, mortgages, credit cards, auto loans, and student loans. Just a taste of what you could find here. The next tab I'm going to go to is our HMDA data. HMDA stands for the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act. And so this data gives us insight into mortgage lending. Nationally, in the 3rd district, this is going to look familiar. We've produced a PowerPoint presentation for where that PDFs. Again, we're going to separate out the data by income. With HMDA data, HMDA data are publicly available. You could go home tonight and find this information online. And you could create your own charts for other geographies. You could do counties, MSAs, neighborhoods, what have you. We know the income of the applicant and of the neighborhood. So we can get a little more detail with our estimates here. So this shows the distribution of lending by income, rejection rates again by income. Loan purpose, we separate out purchase, refinance, and home improvement loans. Loan type, whether it's conventional, FHA, or other. Non-regulated lenders, by lender size, and then reasons for rejection, which I think are pretty interesting too. To look at the different reasons that low-income borrowers and borrowers in low-income neighborhoods are rejected compared to upper income. We also produce information on rural housing. This relies heavily on, again, the American Community Survey that Naomi mentioned. We use the micro data, so that it comes public use micro sample data. And what we can do with that, it's a very rich data set with information, and I say we, everyone does, it's publicly available, of course. Very detailed information on household characteristics and on housing units. And what we're interested in learning is how many renter households spend too much money on their housing costs. The federal government typically says 30%, more than 30% is too much. We also look at how many spend more than 50%. So this report summarizes our findings for the district. Just to show you a couple of graphics here. So this chart shows the percent of renter households spending more than 30% of their income on rent, more than 50%. We also have the chart at the bottom shows the deficit of rental units, so we can compare the number of households in an income category with the number of housing units that are affordable for households in that category. We can talk about surpluses and deficits. This is being updated actually a week from today. This runs through 2010 only, but a week from today we're going to release estimates that run through 2012. And the last thing I want to mention, and I hope you take a copy of this, it's on the table on the floor, is our data inventory. So I mentioned we get calls asking for data, and our stakeholders seem to suggest to us that there's so much data out there that they want to know where they can turn for good, reliable information. And so we took that challenge on last summer, hired an intern, and he identified 16 data sources that he thought our stakeholders could really learn a lot from, and published them in that publication by the door. It's just a 2-page description of each of the data sources. We think that practitioners will find them helpful, maybe you will too, and they tell you just enough to maybe pique your interest in learn more. So I think I'm going to stop there and make sure that I have time for the
Yeah, we're going to suspend questions, even mine, for now, so that we can give Katie an opportunity to do her thing. We're already going to go over a couple minutes, but we'll have plenty of time for Q&A, so just hold your questions. Katie? While Katie is doing that, how close are you? Are you ready?
I made it.
Okay, good. Well, I'm gonna do it anyway. You know, we had 87, I'm gonna go to 97 RSVPs for this event. And we had 10 people at the last minute say they couldn't come. In any case, this is the highest RSVP event in the history of this meetup. The prior record holder was Robert Cheatham from Xavier. So you can tell Robert. Who's from Xavier? Yeah. So tell Robert his record was broken tonight.
Can I?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm Katie Nelson. I'm Associate Director of Data and Product Development at PolicyMap. PolicyMap is a web-based data and mapping tool, and so I work on a fairly small team, and we compile and assemble and clean and format and validate and write metadata for what I think is a pretty impressive geodatabase that can be accessed online through our website, as well as, well, we have an API, we have site licenses, we offer widgets, which are interactive maps on our website, a number of different ways. But my primary work has been, over the course of the last about 5 years, to build this enormous geodatabase of spatial information and to work on our products. So I've been increasingly doing more and more kind of UI work. And I have a background in GIS, so it's not totally new to me, but it's definitely stretched me in different directions. So PolicyMap is part of the Reinvestment Fund, or TRF. TRF is pretty well known here in Philly. We've been around for more than 25 years. And we're known primarily as a lending organization. We lend for affordable housing, for supermarkets, including that supermarket in Camden, or that was mentioned, Chester. I said Camden, and I said Chester. Sorry about that. So we also lend to charter schools. We lend to child care centers. We lend to health centers. Lots of different things. But we have a number of other departments besides lending and investing, including a policy solutions team, and they specialize in data and analysis. We have a real estate development team that actually builds development projects, and we have PolicyMap, and that is the department that I work with. This just summarizes the work of TRF over the course of the last 25 years. How many homes, how many square feet, how many patients. PolicyMap is, as I said, a web-based data and mapping tool. And we have more than 25,000 different data indicators covering everything from demographics and socioeconomics to housing to real estate to health to the environment. And we see ourselves as a value add to the data. We spent all of our time kind of compiling all of this data from different, first census and other public institutions, and then also some private data sources where we couldn't find public data available. And we clean it and we format it and we make it all systematized and standard and easy to access without having to know which of 50 or 75 different sources to go to, without having to figure out what format the data is in. Is it ASCII? Is it, do I need to know GIS? There's lots of different ways that this data comes in, and what we do is we standardize it. So it's easy online access with what I hope is a sophisticated and user-friendly interface, although I think that that's a work in progress. We definitely are a nonprofit. We see ourselves as democratizers of data, and we very, very much believe in the power of data to transform communities. And so while we try to make ourselves as self-sustaining, the truth is that 79% of our users are using the free side of the site. 40% of the organizations that are subscribers are nonprofits or they are philanthropies. We also have a growing number of government agencies, some local, some state, some federal, that are using PolicyMap in some way. And I wanted to spend the bulk of my minutes actually showing you PolicyMap and running through how it works in some of the tools. But given that this session was about big data and open data, I really liked this visual. I found it, we found it in The Guardian, put it on our blog last year, actually. But I think it unpacks these, big data, open data terms really, really nicely, because I think they are at this point very much buzzwords for a lot of people. The idea is that big data is very much about size, right? How big a data set is. Whether it's useful or not useful is a completely separate question, right? There's tons of information out there, but not all of it is actually anything that we want to do anything with. Open data, on the other hand, has nothing to do with size, right? It has everything to do with the usefulness of it, right? Is it something that is available to you, that you can download or that you can access and you can use, and can you replicate it and reuse it somewhere else? And then the third kind of triumvirate over there is open government. And we've talked about Open Data Philly and, the Census and Open Data.gov, all of those different enterprises. But we at PolicyMap kind of see ourselves largely in that center sphere there, right? Like we started, and our home base is large, publicly available, a lot of government data sets that we have cleaned and processed and made available. And I just wanted to put that out there as kind of a framework for how we think about it. But we've been moving more and more in other directions with some of the kind of exciting developments that are happening with open data. We are, for example, working with the city of Philadelphia with some of their local municipal data. Some of it is public, some of it is not yet public, some of it they hope to make public. But the goal is to create a platform for data sharing so that different city agencies can share data with one another, so that our civil servants can do their jobs, can create policies, can do and conduct outreach, that kind of thing. So I mentioned that we see ourselves as a value add. I think a lot of you are data people, and you have had the experience of downloading data, of cleaning it, of validating it, of figuring out what to do with it. And so we see ourselves as an intermediary that tries to do all of that messy, yucky work to get your data ready, and allows you to kind of jump in and look at the data and take it and try and analyze with it. So with that, I'm going to open PolicyMap, and I'm going to hope that it works. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is our site. It's been open for like 2 hours. Let me just refresh it. So the interface is designed just very much like a Google map. We have a set location bar up here where you can type in an address or zip code or whatever. You can also search if you have a specific census tract or block group or Senate district or anything like that. But I'm just going to take us to Philadelphia. And then essentially what you have up here is all of our data. And let me just open one tab and give you a sense of what's here. This is housing. So we have some proprietary data on home sales. This is because there's no good public data set for this. We have census data on home values, on rents, on different residential buildings and group quarters. There, once upon a time, was a national data set for vacancy. It is now been closed off, and you have to get special permission to use it. So we have a different source for that. We have data on owners, on renters, on subsidized households. Point of the story, this data comes from probably a dozen different sources. And what we've done is we've cleaned it, brought it in, and tried as best we could to put it in a format that would be browsable for people that are coming and looking for a specific kind of data and maybe don't know exactly what it is that they're looking for. So to give you an example, Keith mentioned cost burdens. So this is homeowner cost burdens. Cost burden means that a household is spending more than a third of their income on their household. Extremely cost burden means they're spending more than 50% of their income on their housing costs. So let me go ahead and put that indicator on, and it just loads right up on the map. The title of what it is you're looking at appears up here. You can click for more details. We take our sourcing and citing very seriously, so we have an enormous data directory which tells you exactly where it was from, and you take the link back to exactly where we got the data source. The legend over here allows you to change the year, the variable, or census, the geography. It defaults to the smallest geography we've got, but you could look it up for county, division, zip code, city, what have you. And you can click on the map to get the exact value for any geography. Strange. Okay, I've never seen this happen before. Okay. Okay, give you another example. Under incomes and spending, I'm just going to load in median household income. And it loads on the map. Okay, I feel like this is some sort of a crazy cache issue or something. What? Interesting. Well, before I was on here, I was able to open a report before, which. All right, we're gonna give it one more try, and then I'm gonna just let it go. Okay. Well, 99% of the time, when you click on a geography, it opens and it gives you the exact value for the census tract unless we compare it to the geographies that exist. The idea there being, we're looking at, the estimated typical median household income. You can get the value for your local neighborhood, and you can see how that compares to Philadelphia as a whole, how that compares to Metro, how that compares nationally. And one other thing I wanted to mention. For those of you that are familiar with working with census data, you'll know the geographies in 2010 are very different. Tracts changed somewhat. Block groups changed by a huge amount, especially in Philadelphia. So it's very, very difficult to look at change at a neighborhood scale. And so what we did is we created percent change calculations that compare the two geographies like apples to apples. So what we did is we used the census block relationship files to translate 2000 to 2010, and that allows us to compare them in real time. So we see this as a huge value add that took us about a year to do. So wherever possible, sometimes the ACS will tell you do not compare 2000 and 2012. But wherever possible, we have done percent change calculations at the granular scale for all of our indicators. Okay, how much do I have time? I'm pretty much out. Okay, then why don't we do this then? So I wanted to talk about a project, over analytics. I wanted to talk about a project that is funded by the Wells Fargo Regional Foundation. And they fund us to do data work and data support for community organizations in Philadelphia and throughout the region. So, what they get is a policy map subscription, so they get access to all of our data. They also can upload their own data to overlay it over on top of ours, and they get our expertise. And what we have done is build a series of community change reports that try and track the change that is happening in their neighborhoods and compare it to similar or peer neighborhoods that we identify at the beginning of the process. And we update the data whenever it's possible, every quarter, every year. And the goal, obviously, is to try and show that they are having impact where they are. So let me go ahead and put on an example quickly, and then I will stop talking. And this, of course, is every group, so it will take me just a second. So these are the target areas for all of the groups that we're working with. And what we found working with them is, you know, these place-based organizations, they know so much and so much rich detail about where they are. They can cite which properties are vacant, but they don't have a sense of how what's going on in their neighborhood kind of relates to broader trends in the area. And so we do a lot of talking with them, trying to help them translate what they're seeing into mappable data. So here is Nueva Esperanza. They work up in North Philly. And because it's not going to let me click, I'm just going to show you an example of their report. This is a jobs and economy report. And so they have chosen 3 neighborhoods that they consider similar to their own neighborhood. And what we do is we track the change happening in their neighborhood compared to these 3 comparables. And so this report, you know, it gives you the unemployment rate. It gives you the top industries in the city of Philadelphia as compared to the top industries in their area. You get the average wage, so you can see here people working in the healthcare sector are making much, much better money than the people that are likely working in, you know, combination food services and some of these other enterprises. And this helps to kind of foster developing a plan for worker training and for connecting people with jobs. We track the number of workers over time. This is from a data set called the Longitudinal Employment Household Dynamics data set. It has number of workers going all the way down to the block level. It's new, it's very cool. Information on veterans, economic development, jobs, tracking over time. The Nueva Esperanza is compared to the other comparables. And what's interesting here is, you know, you can see one of these comparable neighborhoods, Franklinville, has seen like a surge in the number of jobs. So it raises the question of why, what are they doing, what's happening over there, and is this something that we can learn from? So I think that sums a lot of it up. But this has been a really, the work with the Wells Fargo with the community organizations has been really fulfilling and fun. To be able to take the kind of data savvy that we have and try and connect it with like the real needs on the ground. And it becomes, you know, a real two-way conversation where I learned a lot about the kind of user that's coming to Policy Map, what it is that they know a lot about, and what is that gap that we can help fill.
That, for a variety of reasons, was a very interesting place to end the conversation. First, what you just described is exactly what I hope to achieve here. Show how data can be presented to make very, very important decisions. 2, the organization that you use as your use case. I mean, I don't know of any, it's one of the best in the city. Esperanza is first class. And thirdly, personally, and there's an insider joke about this with the founder. I made him his first loan. So really good test. When you see him, tell him you got the person who get lost up that. In any case, this was not planned. It's meaningful, personally. So, any questions? Yeah. What is your name?
I'm Dave.
Which organization are you with? Or
we're just a software engineer with the whole startup. I was just curious, your development policy map, is that in-house?
We have we have a team of developers. They're called 3L, and we've been working with them in partnership for years and years.
Your name?
I'm David Mosenkis. I'm a data activist. My passion is I work I'm curious about the recency of the data, both Snap data and the federal reserve data. I know that I think we showed Snap they showed us and similarly what we figured out as well. And I wonder if you could comment a little about what are the challenges in making the data up to date and what's the outlook look like going forward?
So I think the challenges are twofold. The first is just data availability. So a lot of the data that I discussed that we use, the American Community Survey data, the 2013 data were just released not long ago. We've been working on the sort of housing update for a few months, and so we had to use the 2012. That will be out next week. We're already a year behind, right? So in part it's data availability, and in part it's capacity. You know, we have a very small team. There are 5 researchers in my department. Only a couple of us can spend our time sort of keeping the data that we make available fresh. It can be a full-time job, analyzing the latest available data, verifying it, double-checking it, getting it out there, and then hopefully presenting it to people who want to hear about it. So in part, I think there's just a lag in the collection, and then the other part, I think, is capacity constraints.
And I think that comports for us as well. So we use 5-year ACS estimates. You need the 5-year to be able to get down to the census tract level. And 2013 was released in December. We are hoping to have it up by the end of February. I can't figure out how to do it any faster than that. It just takes that long because there's so many variables. There's so much work that goes into it. But we have a very detailed data calendar that tells us when everything comes out, and we just do our best to stay up with it. But I mean, I think he's right. I think people want the data from, yesterday. They don't want the data from 2 years ago, and that's just sort of the reality of the limitations of what we have to work with.
Any other questions? Okay. Here's another, and 2.
Is there, for anyone on the panel, is there a data set out there that you don't think is going to utilize as much as it should be? And in general, any area that is kind of under the radar?
LAHD, that's the Longitudinal Employment Household Dynamics data set.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a data set where we're taking census data and we're matching it with administrative data, and in this case, it's unemployment insurance data from every state. And we're taking it, and it's a really neat tool because it's like the only online mapping that the census does, where you can get information on demographics of workers, where they're working, where they're commuting from, where they're going to. So it's a really neat tool that's sort of hidden. And I do workshops just on LAHD. So I'm glad you brought it up because it's one of those things that people don't really know about. So that's good. And I would say for us, our economic census data, and we have a data set called Community County Business Patterns, which is the data where every year data goes down to the county and the zip code level on the numbers of establishments, so businesses, what industry they're in, where they're located, what's their first quarter payroll, how many paid employees they have. So that's a really neat tool that a lot of people don't know about, and I like to promote.
Yes. What is your name?
My name is Emma Trimble, and my question is for Phil. So this is the opposite to the questions about keeping data sites updated, website. I have found the more you know, the more is expected of you. So if they find out you know how to use census data, and if I, go back to work and I say, oh, policy map, they'll expect me to incorporate all these tools. How do you manage the expectations of people who really do need the data to do impactful work, but you're only one person or your teammate?
Right, I am the only. It is all me. So what I did was I got the release schedule. I had the release schedule ahead of time, and I went through and said, based on the data that was already out there, what data do I want? Do I definitely need to have? What data might I need to have? much data? Probably not, but Steve could keep around anyway. And I just gathered as much data ahead of time, built my database ahead of time. So when the new data was released, all I just had to do was pull down the same tables that I pulled down from the previous year. It's all there. It's at state level, county level, municipal, census tract. I don't have block groups. Yes, I have the zip code tabulation areas and congressional districts. So I have all the same data in six different geographic levels. I pulled data from 15 different tables, made them all the same, so they're all standardized. All the data is already ready there. So when they say, can you give me a map of Pennsylvania's 6 state Senate districts, I can just get that, pull it up, do the census tract, put the district boundaries over top of that, print it out, it's ready to go.
Joe is back. Shimon, I'm interested in the health data. More specifically, I'm interested as a requirement, hospitals are supposed to do community need assessment. And I saw that in the policy map as well as in the census, there's something about well-being as well as health. Where would I go if I'm interested in looking at the data to get the information that can be used for hospital-based information about community health needs? Regardless of what Johnson has run, it's run by, the University of Wisconsin and various other people have different data sets. The other thing that I hear, and I wonder if you can address it, is that when the government uses someone to house the data, it becomes their property, and that's related to health data, so that when there's required reporting, for example, on hospital performance, if there is already some contractor, they can have access to proprietary access to the data.
On a national level, I would say health is one of the most difficult kinds of data to get at anything smaller than the county level. We have a ton of health data, most of it at the county plus. And from what I've seen, if you want to get more small scale than that, you need to go to a local source. I know that there's the Southeastern Pennsylvania Household Health Survey, and I believe all that data is public. We have a few of those indicators on Policy Map under our health tab, and so we've mapped just some of them. But I believe that the rest of that is public as well. I didn't work on this particular project, so I can't speak for sure.
I mean, Census does surveys for other agencies, and we do a couple for the CDC. There's a National Health Interview Survey where people are part of this survey and they're asked about their health. There's one about ambulatory care. There's one where they go to doctor's offices and they view patient records, but that may just be national. Those are the ones that I can think of. If you go to census.gov and just type health in our keyword search, anything health related will show up. And if it's something that we do for another agency, it will link to that agency's website where you can get that data. And that's all public data.
Anyone else?
Just to get another source I don't know. Yeah, just National Center.
Joe Brianna has a question.
Actually, this isn't a question, it's a resource. My office has an epidemiologic profile every year. It's about 400 pages of local health data from a variety of sources, but that might help as well.
And that organization is?
The Office of HIV Planning, thanks. It's hivphilly.org.
Hey, Joe, still here.
Yeah, I've been using data sets for 40 years or so, maybe more. And it always was amazing to me, still is amazing, the quality of data that the United States collects and assesses relative to other countries. And even within the United States, you can see gradations at a level of state, local government, in various states and whatnot. There's a great variation in the quality of data, collection of data. And so an important thing that's apparent to me, and I think it's going to be more important as the struggle over budgets at the federal level continues, is financing data collection and maintenance and access to the work that these folks do is really pivotal, but it's really expensive to have somebody that does what they're doing do it. And I heard one fellow here, I don't know about everybody, they look for their small staffs, and their staffs have been under pressure to cut back analysis assessment because information is power. So there's a political dimension. I don't think it's crazy as Marxist stuff. It's not my point. My point is that it costs money to learn about what you're doing. So the important thing to do among this group, which our users maybe, is to develop independent financing sources and try to sustain the database and data collection process that these people actually do.
Leave it to Paulo to cut right to it. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. First of all, Hans Rosling's videos are amazing as far as I'm concerned. And if you've never been exposed, you'll find it to be a real treat. Now, I have two. One is 4 minutes and 47 seconds long, and then there's another, it's about 13 minutes. How many of you would like to see the 4 minute, 47 second long? Okay, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. Can we show it? It just shows you the power of visualization tools and what's doable. Can we get the lights? He's basically speaking about
Visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. I teach geography, and I know having the data is not enough. I have to show you ways people both enjoy and understand. Visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. I teach geography, and I know having the data is not enough. I have to show you ways people both enjoy and understand. Now, I'm going to try something I've never done before. Animating the data in real space with a bit of technical assistance from the group. So, here we go. First, an axis variable. Life expectancy. 25 minutes, 75 minutes. And down here, an axis for weather. Income per person, 200, 4,000, and 40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and empty. Now, here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa Sub-Saharan pink, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country shows the size of the population. In 1810, it was a bit crowded down there, wasn't it? Take country for a second. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. Only the UK and the Netherlands was slightly better off. Now, I start the world. The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from Paris. Colonized countries in Asia and eventually the Western countries get healthier and healthier And now we slow down to show the impact of the First World War, the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe. And now I speed up to the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forged on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others tried to follow. Most countries stayed on the after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great war was over. Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics. And I was born. That network between the countries of the world was wider than ever. The United States was in the front. Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind. Iran was getting a little richer from war, but still had shown up. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia, Latin America started to catch up to the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa followed. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date they live in the middle. But there are huge differences at the same time. They live in the best of countries, the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These countries show country averages. I can split in China. I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province who I show. It is like Pakistan. I split it further. Rural parts, what I call like Africa. And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see a clear trend into the future. With aid, trade, green technology, and peace, it's fully possible that everyone can make it to the healthy world. What we have seen in the last few minutes is a story of 200 countries shown over 200 years of history. It involves a lot of 120,000 numbers.
Yeah, well, there's more of that on YouTube. It sounds browsing. Can we hit the lights, please? So I want to thank you for coming. I think this is a great session. We had a great panel, and your questions were right on mark. And from the standpoint of the organizers, I think we achieved our goal, our aim of illuminating the issues around big data, small data, finding and disseminating data and using it to tell stories, to make points, to convince people, to persuade people, decision makers within our organizations and outside. So once again, thanks for coming, and we hope you come again to the next one.